Hello and thank you for watching this video. This is a follow-up to my enterprise class server build, which is going to use Unraid as the operating system along with enterprise class parts as discussed in previous videos, which you guys should have taken a look at before watching this video. But if you haven't, I'll do a quick recap. I am building an enterprise class home NAS for my system. It is going to have at least 6 bays. I'm going to, and I've actually tweaked this from my last video and from what I was originally thinking I was going to do. I have 2 red drives, 8 terabyte drives. They are in this bad boy right here. This is a QNAP TS451. It is a beautiful thing. I love it. However, I am relying more and more on my NAS, and I'm beginning to feel more and more that I have to sort of up my game. I run Plex, I run MB, I have torrents, I have news, just got into news groups, I have, you know, websites, I have virtual machines. There's just a ton of stuff, and the NAS is really turning out to be something that is becoming much more integral to my life in terms of even my music, and being able to stream and be able to access my system from outside the network is really becoming something that I'm getting used to and love. I added the CPU, which is here. I added the SSD and the SSD bracket, which is here. I'm going to get another SSD because I think that the 240 gigabyte SSD, now that I have a better understanding of how it's going to work and I'm beginning to in my mind draw out how I'm going to do everything, I think that's going to be essential. This board is Gigabyte MD30, which accepts E5 26 or 1600 version 3 and version 4 processors. I have a 1620 version 3 processor. I have 2 of them. I already put in one Nocturo fan for the one CPU, but you can see my dilemma, which I have to figure out, and I will now that I have the second CPU in, is I have another Nocturo CPU fan, and it's going to have to sit right here, but the 2 fans are going to be extremely close. So my dilemma is going to be, how the hell am I going to position this fan? Should I position the fan up, down, or this way? I think I determined that I would position the fan this way so that the airflow remained the same, but these are going to be really close. And actually I have the fan here, so I am actually going to show you what my dilemma is in real time. The Nocturo fan right there, and as you can see, they're rather large CPU heatsink fans, and I'm hoping, I expect to get a lot of cooling. From what I'm seeing on videos, they seem to be what back when I was doing computers, Zalman was one of the big heatsink fan makers that did amazing fans, but were really big. And that seems to be what this company's fans are for servers. So, you know, we see the problem right here. It won't even sit next to it. I even think I've got a problem even if I try and go like this with it. Well, no, that actually works. But then I am absolutely blocking the airflow, as you can see, for this fan. So my solution that I thought of is to remove the fan that is going to be closest to that particular heatsink fan. So okay guys, so I think I've got the solution. I am going to remove the fan from here and keep the fans on the other 2 heatsinks. So it's going to, in other words, look like this. This configuration, from what I'm seeing, the screws will line up in each one of the slots. So it's going to look like this. Essentially what it would look like if I had that other heatsink fan on there. So that is the plan. You'll notice is so right here is the arrow that you need to have the CPU point to in order for it to be properly fitted into the spot. And if I didn't show before, these CPUs are really in beautiful condition. I mean, and they came from a company that works with Goodwill apparently, and they repurpose these they repurpose tech, and in this case this came out of a working server, or at least that's what they indicated, and were very reasonably priced. So that's a beautiful thing. This is it packaged. There is no heatsink, so hence the reason why I needed to have a heatsink. The actual make and model, again, this is a Xeon. This board takes 2600s as well as 1600s. This is an E5 1620 version 3. So that is the CPU. It looks, you know, I can see I can see it used, but it looks pretty dang darn good for me. Okay, so I've got the Arctic Silver right here. I don't know if it's right here. I don't know if it's actual Arctic Silver as in the old days. Speaking of the old days, when I first started doing computer builds, guys used to be really insane with the Arctic Silver. But I believe in the concept of less is more or less. I used to actually have a little scraper to sort of scrape it down. I don't have that, like a little credit card to scrape it and make sure that it's all perfectly even. I don't have that anymore. So I'm just going to do what I've seen others do, which is smash it down and then lift it back up and see if it's spread evenly across the processor die. So that is what it would look like with it in. So now I'm going to just wiggle it a little bit. And then one of the things that I don't think people really appreciate is how much this thing acts as an adhesive also. So once it gets in there, it's a little bit more tricky to get it up and out. In addition, this fan needs to come off. Okay, I think that's a good spread. I think that's a really good spread. I think that's a good amount on there. I think it's actually less than what I did on this one. So if this CPU is cooler, this being CPU 1 is cooler than CPU 0, I'll know it's because of the spread of Arctic Silver, and I may have to put more on the actual on the actual other CPU to cool it down or to make it better. So I have to take off these fans not only for maneuvering purposes but also to screw this thing down. So this is going to go back in. Again, similar to how I had it before. Okay. Looks like that's in. Pretty much. And then this very nicely has a very long screwdriver sort of thing to screw it in tight and nicely fitted. And what's going to happen is because I don't have the memory is going to be the last thing I'm actually waiting for now, as well as I'm going to have an SD card, an additional SD card that's going to come as well. But the memory is really what I'm going to be waiting for to start this bad boy up. So this is going to have at least 24 hours to sit and kind of set, which I think is going to be a really good thing. Again, back when I started first building computers, it was like 24 to 48 hours was the time frame that people would say that you should let the Arctic Silver sort of sit there and sort of meld into or set. What's also good about this particular board is that, and at least the placement of this fan is that the fans, this heatsink's power is right here, is right below, or right, yeah, directly below where the power supply is. So it's literally right here. So I'm going to be able to plug these in, and there's actually this Noctura comes with a splitter, a Y splitter here that I'm going to actually use to to install this cable. One of the things that I will say is the two things I did not estimate, and I'm seeing more and more, which is making me a little bit worried. More and more is power. I hope 750 watt power supply will be enough, and cooling. A lot of people are going all out with respect to the cooling. And outside of these fans and this CPU and the cooling on this, I'm not really doing anything else for cooling. The room stays cool. It's winter time here as of the shooting of this video. When summertime comes, I usually keep it in a nice air-conditioned room. The room here is air-conditioned. I'm actually going to put it in a storage closet, which I don't know if it remains cool, but I'm going to have to really monitor the temperatures of the hard drives as well as the heat sinks for the CPUs and see what happens. Okay guys, quick update. Next is going to be the memory cards and then unraid.